in, you guys are going to hear a lot of truth facts coming from a lot of amazing human beings. We're in it to win it. You guys, your first storytelling guest coming to the stage is a wonderful human. I love her very much. You will too. Put your hands together for Miss Bethany Major.
I'm so glad that Joanne and I are on the same height, so I don't monkey with this too much, although I think I already screwed it up. Thanks for coming out and listening to some people bitch about their moms, because that's what I'm about to do. Two tiny stories. We're going to be very close friends when I'm done. You're going to understand a lot about me. Joanne totally screwed this up. There we go. My parents were in their early 40s when they had me. I have a brother that's 15 years older. I was raised in a very Republican, very middle class, and very Catholic family. There should have been more of us. Many more. many more. But apparently it didn't happen for my folks, because thank God there aren't more broken people in the world. Just me and my brother, end of the line. Also, I was not an accident. I was a miracle. That's what I was told my whole life. You are a miracle. Not the truth. Mom was on the rhythm method after giving up after many years of trying, and here you go. Sorry, rhythm method doesn't really work. I think about that now. I'm 43 and I can't imagine having a 2-year-old running around. My poor mom, 41, stuck with a new baby, and she'd already raised a son, and he was a good son, and he was an honor student, blah, blah, blah. He was no trouble at all, ever. I, however, was a handful. I drank and smoked and did drugs starting around junior high. Yeah. Shaved part of my head, dyed my hair blonde. They had no idea what to do with me, but I did get good grades, so I was full of potential. So you have a little background. This is my first memory of my mother shaming me. I was a tiny little thing, about maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I was playing in my room with a long pink satin ribbon that I got from somewhere. It might have been from my grandmother's sewing kit. I had taken off all my clothes, and I had wrapped it around myself in a million different places, and also between my legs. And I was dancing around in my room like a 4-year-old, basically doing little kid masturbating. And it felt good. And my mother opened the door. What are you doing in here? And I froze, because I could tell from the look on her face that something was terribly wrong. Oh my God, you would have thought that Satan had been in the room with me, making me dance like a little bondage marionette. I was told, you cannot touch yourself like that, or Jesus won't love you, he'll cry, and you will go to hell. Fantastic. A life of terrifying masturbatory experiences ahead of me. And my pink satin ribbon was confiscated, never to be seen again. So, because of this incident, I didn't successfully masturbate until I was almost 21. She won that battle. She won. So many years wasted sleeping with dudes that I didn't even really like, just hoping for that rainbow. I could have just taken care of business myself if my own mother hadn't scarred me for life. So that's my first hate-filled memory of my mother. Fast forwarding, I spent all of grade school and high school with a mother who was just all whims. I had to gauge her mood to ask to do anything. To her credit, if I caught her in a good mood and I was allowed to go to that sleepover, she didn't change her mind later. It could have been worse. But I literally walked on eggshells every day of my life, not knowing which mom I was going to get that day. I learned to lie a lot. I learned that certain events got a typical yes response, so those were my go-tos, and then I would just be someplace else and hope not to get caught. It was the easiest way. I never knew that some people actually grew up close to their parents and could tell them everything. What a concept. I grew up telling my parents nothing and lying all the time. It was survival. Then I went to college, and I never looked back. Except that didn't mean these people were out of my life. Not at all. I spent 4 years in art school, and it was great. I actually learned so much I would never take it back. I don't regret a day of it, except I do regret that this happened. I was a ceramics major, and I didn't do pottery very much. I wasn't doing like mugs and bowls and cute little things like that. I was turning clay into bigger canvases to make wall art. It was thick and gooey, and I could sculpt into it. I did lots of drawings and paintings that had, screaming faces, arms with syringes hanging off of them, bottles with figures trapped inside, and there were some anti-Georgia O'Keeffe vaginas that were rough and prickly. I translated that stuff into clay wall pieces that were crazy, heavy, and weird and big. I was getting into some stuff that none of my fellow students were doing. I was taking images of addiction and sexuality and translating them into 60-pound wall sculptures. In other words, I was rad. I was shit. The head of my department was a little afraid of me by my senior year. He was supposed to stop by and see how my thesis was going on the regular, and he was supposed to coach and comment and critique. What he would do is he would literally nervously stop by for about 5 minutes once a week and say, "Keep going." And that was all he could handle, and then he would scurry off. So here it is, graduation, and I had a prime spot in the gallery for the senior show, and it was amazing. The minute anyone walked into the gallery, they saw my artwork and the artwork of another girl who did amazing paintings. We had the key location. It was groundbreaking for me, and it was the culmination of 4 years of very hard work with a little partying and drug use. My teachers were proud of me, my friends were proud of me. It should have been a banner day in my life. And then there's Mom. She had to ruin it. Senior show, all the parents are being supportive. I stand there proud as a peacock, showing my folks what I've accomplished. My mother looks at it for a minute or two, turns to me and says, "I thought you would make something pretty." Verbatim, she said that. And I never got over it. I think my artwork maybe suffered a bit forever. My dad is a sweetheart and tried to temper her comment with, "I think I see what you're trying to do." He's always been a tiny bit more open-minded, but I'm sure he didn't really see what I was trying to convey. He just knows my mom is nuts and wanted to soothe me. So those are my two favorite stories about my mom. By the way, my ex-husband talked me into doing this thing because obviously she was the worst mother-in-law ever. He said, "Your mom is so horrible, you should do this show." And on that, very quickly, when I told my mother that my ex and I were getting divorced, I never really mentioned why. It wasn't really any of their business. Then a few months later, when my ex hadn't moved out yet, he had to find a place to live. My mother was surprised, and I asked her why she was surprised. He needed to find an apartment. And she said, "Well, I thought he'd move in with..." "With who, Mom?" She thought he was moving in with a girlfriend. She automatically assumed he was leaving me for another woman. And couldn't be any other reason, right? I mean, that doesn't exist. And so that's a shitstorm I've had to endure even just this past year. I'm 43 and still can't escape her negativity and shaming. But you know what? I got her. I got her good. This is what I did. When I was 21, I moved 3,000 miles away. I never moved back home, and I never gave her any grandbabies.